Africa is competing on two global stages right now. One on the football field. African nations are proving their strength once again at the FIFA World Cup with teams such as Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, South Africa, Ivory Coast, Cape Verde, pushing into the round of 32 and showing that African teams, African football is no longer just participating, it is challenging global giants. But while the world watches on the pitch, a far more strategic contest is unfolding behind closed doors. Today in Al-Alamein, Egypt, African heads of government states and governments are meeting at the 8th May Year Coordination Meeting of the African Union. This is not about goals or trophies. It is about policy, power, development, and the future of an entire continent. And yet, many people still ask, what exactly is this meeting? How is it different from the Executive Council, who really runs the African Union system? And what decisions are being made today that could shape Africa's next decades? Let's break it down clearly. Africa's Order Championship, governance versus football. While African football teams are fighting for glory on the global stage, another form of competition is happening in diplomacy, economics, and governance. Instead of defending goals, African leaders are working on trade integration, infrastructure expansion, peace and security coordination, climate resilience, industrialization under Agenda 2063, implementation of African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA. This is Africa's long-term development match. And today's May Year Coordination Meeting is one of its most important fixtures. So, where is this meeting taking place? The 8th May Year Coordination Meeting, where is it taking place? The 8th May Year Coordination Meeting is being held in Al-Alamein, Egypt on June 22nd, that is today, 2026. Al-Alamein is historically significant and now increasingly positioned as a diplomatic and economic hub along the Mediterranean. Egypt hosting of the meeting reinforces its role as one of Africa's key political brokers, connecting North Africa, the Arab world, and Saharan Africa. The AU governing structure. Let's explain the AU governing structure. You know, the AU is a very big organization, I said it before. Huge organization, 55 countries, 1.5 billion people. To understand today's meeting, you must understand the three-tier African Union system. You get the Permanent Representatives Council. We discussed this in our last video. The Permanent Representative Committee. These are ambassadors who sit in Addis Ababa and work on technical reports and policy groundwork. Then you get the Executive Council, which of course we discussed yesterday. These are foreign ministers who review PRC work, debate policies, and prepare decisions. Now we talk about the May Year Coordination Meeting. You know, this is where heads of state and regional leaders who provide strategic direction, and implementation oversight. Each level builds on the previous one. So the PAC discussed, they send it to the minister discussed, made decision, and send it to the 8th May year coordination meeting. As a coordination meeting. Now, why is this different between the Executive Council and the 8th and the May year coordination meeting? The difference is critical. The Executive Council is ministerial and technical. The May year coordination meeting is political and strategic. The Executive Council prepares decisions, right? The May year coordination meeting validates and coordinates implementation at the highest political level. So this is where decisions are made. But then you ask the question, why the May year meeting was created? The May year coordination meeting was created after major reform, AU reform meeting, reform beginning in 2017. The goal was to fix a long-standing problem. Africa's institutions were working in silos. Regional blocs such as ECOWAS, SADC, COMESA, IGA, and others were not always aligned with AU priorities. The reforms introduced a coordination system to ensure policy alignment, reduce duplication, better coordination of Agenda 2063, stronger continental integration. These were the things that they sought to do. And the first meeting was here in 2019. So today's meeting is the 8th edition of the May year coordination meeting. You know, this meeting is here in June, and in February, that's when the Assembly of Heads of State and Government meet. So when these guys meet, they discuss most of the things that need to be discussed. So when they meet in February at the Assembly, they just finalize most of the decisions. Who really attends this meeting? Participants include African heads of state and government, chairperson of the African Union, chairperson of the African Union Commission, leaders of regional economic communities, heads of regional security mechanisms, AU commissioners, AUDA, NEPAD leadership, and AfCFTA secretarial representative. This makes the May year coordination meeting one of the most comprehensive governance meetings on the continent. Now, let's understand what AU commissioners do. A key but often overlooked group in the system is the African Union Commissioners. The African Union Commission is essentially the executive arm of the African Union. The commissioners act like continental level ministers responsible for specific sectors. Each commissioner oversees portfolios such as peace and security, political affairs, economic development, infrastructure and energy, agriculture and rural development. So these are some of the things that these guys oversee: health, humanitarian affairs, and social development, education, science, technology, and innovation. These are some of the things that these commissioners oversee. What they actually do: implement the commissioners, implement AU policies and decisions, coordinate programs across member states, monitor progress of Agenda 2063. I told you going to hear where Agenda 2063 over and over, because this is a 50-year blueprint. It's not a project. It's a 50-year blueprint of the African Union. They work with regional blacks and government, drive continental strategy, manage AU technical agency and initiatives. In simple terms, commissioners are the engine room of African Union policy execution. They ensure that what is agreed at the political level actually gets implemented across the continent. So let's understand what is AUDA, NEPAD, and why it matters. Another key institution in today's meeting is AUDA-NEPAD. AUDA stands for African Union Development Agency. What does it do? Let's see. First, NEPAD. NEPAD stands for New Partnership on Africa's Development. NEPAD was originally created in 2001 as Africa's flagship development program. It was later transformed into AUDA-NEPAD to strengthen implementation capacity. So those are us who always say the African Union doesn't do anything. If the more you study the African Union, you know that African Union is doing a lot. And eventually African Union will be like the European Union. They are laying the groundwork, they are working. So what does NEPAD does? NEPAD, it focuses on practical project, development projects, including infrastructure development, rails, energy system, agriculture and food security programs, health system strengthening, education and skills development, industrialization and economic transformation, technical assistance to African governments. These are all of the things that AUDA and NEPAD do. So the NEPAD core role is implementation and development. Is the implementation and development arm of the African Union. If the African Union Commission sets policy, NEPAD helps turn those policies or that policy into a real project on the ground. It bridges the gap between policy and execution. Then we look at the regional economic communities. Africa integration system is built on regional blocks such as ECOWAS, SADC, EAC, COMESA, IGA, and you name the rest of them. These are the building blocks of the African Union. And that's why I said the more you study the African Union, the more you'll be convinced and more you understand that the African Union is not slow. The African Union is not at the level of the European Union yet, but the African Union is making progress as it relates to continental integration. Now, the May-year coordination meeting ensures the work, these various blocks, these regional blocks, are working in harmony with the African Union broader agenda. So, yesterday we talked about the African Union Executive Council meeting, which happens between June 25th and 26th in the same city of El Alamein, Egypt. The agenda they work on were the agenda items they work on were Agenda 2063 implementation, AfCFTA rollout and trade expansion, infrastructure and corridor, peace and security coordination, climate and water security, of food systems and agriculture, financing AU programs, regional integration alignment. This year's theme emphasizes water security and sanitation as the part of Africa's development strategy. So the African Union is working. You see that the three-tier system we talk about, how the African Union works. So every decision that is made now, African Union is trying to make sure that these decisions are put into motion. So the various organs of the African Union are working hard to implement the policy that are being Now, the 8th year May-year coordination meeting in El Alamein is not just another diplomatic gathering. It is critical. It is a critical checkpoint for Africa's development trajectory. While African football teams are demonstrating growing competitiveness on the football pitch or global stage, Africa's political leadership is being tested on something far more important. Can the continent move from policy declarations to real implementation? Because ultimately, success on the pitch brings pride, but success on governance transform economies, strengthen institutions, and shape the future of over 1.5 billion people. That is what is at stake today in Egypt. Folks, Africa is making progress, and we need to celebrate every little progress we made. If you found this discussion helpful, consider subscribing, liking the video, and following for more in-depth analysis of African and global affairs. Folks, this is the one that does settles. My name is Pico Conway, and we'll continue to talk about the African Union. Tomorrow we'll discuss AUDA-NEPAD. We'll go more in depth in what they do and what are some of the projects they are undertaking. We'll help you understand the African Union, and we'll help you understand the African Union is not slow. It's moving towards economic integration and moving towards integrating Africa. Eventually, and pretty soon, Africa will be one unified, maybe like the European Union or like the United States. All the groundwork is being laid, and eventually the finished product will be done. But I want you to understand that African Union leadership, they're not slow. They are working day in, day out to ensure that the dreams that Kwame Nkrumah, Sékou Touré, Togme, Jomo Kenyatta, and Haile Selassie, and Siaka Stevens, and Dara Awa Mwad, all those leaders, all the dream they have for united Africa. Even people like Ruto and Togme, and all these people, all these leaders, the dream they have of a unified Africa is coming to fruition. Eventually, you'll see a united Africa. It's going to take time, but we all have to get involved, play our little role in our own communities. Ask our ambassador to the African Union, our foreign minister, what they're doing, how we can get involved in making sure that the African Union, achieve its ultimate objective of uniting the 1.5 billion people on the continent under one political authority. Folks, my name is Pico Kawe. You are watching When the Dust Settles. Until next time, stay safe. Bye for now.